Good morning, everyone. Microphone check. Screen check. Looks like everything is working correctly here. Good. Welcome. Hopefully everyone is able to rest up over the weekend and enjoy the extended weekend and come back rested, relaxed, refreshed, and all that fun stuff. I've still got a bit of a cough. Just as a side note, I've still got some issues there, but overall, all things considered, we're getting better. But if you hear me hacking or something, I'm trying to mute the mic as often as possible, but just as a heads up. As always, before we jump on the left side of the screen there, make sure to read through the Live Trader Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that's inside there. Just a quick note for everyone before we jump on in. As always, on the YouTube side of things, the broadcast does have between a 5 to 30 second delay, depending on when you're logging in and where you're logging in from. That will definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about at the time, so keep that in mind. Also, just wanted to give a shout out to the latest members that joined over the weekend and over the extended weekend and last night and all that. Thanks so much for the support. I'm pumped to have you on the SSFTG family. If you aren't a member yet, you do have a few different options available to check out if you are looking to further your trading education and career. Here on YouTube, you can check out the join button below the stream. YouTube family gains access to the extended hours trading room, which continues from the morning session, usually until around 10:30, 11 o'clock, until things slow down and questions are done. Every member gains permanent access to the Discord chat server, and of course, you get the awesome badge next to your name to show your support here on YouTube, and it just looks cool. To understand the trading approach and what we're doing here in the room, look no further than the Day Trading Academy. It's not a small PDF guide that you're going to finish in an afternoon. You're looking at 19 plus hours of course material, study material, homework, review, etc. So you better tuck in and get ready for it because there's quite a bit there. And then finally, the big one, VIPs. And VIPs, along with everything else, gain exclusive permanent access to the non-delayed stream, covering the entire morning session from 9 to whenever we finish, ensuring that you are on the fastest connection possible and you don't miss a beat. Alongside that, VIPs also have access to the monthly VIP webinars, private VIP events, one-on-one scheduling access, all kinds of cool stuff. So whether you're here for the very first time or you are a seasoned VIP veteran over on the Zoom stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you here with me today, trading these crazy, whippy, wild markets, maybe. We'll see. Let's take a look at some charts, take a look at some news, see what's going on for today, and then we can kind of gauge as to what to expect. Don't forget to grab the morning DP levels as posted for you this morning. All of the major levels on all of the major 7 markets that we take a look at. So don't forget about those. And then, of course, we also need the news for today. And as far as the news is concerned, obviously today, 6 o'clock, we had the OPEC meeting for crude oil. That's going to potentially throw things around a little bit. We can see crude oil's been, I mean, it just hasn't stopped going higher so far this morning, so it's been pretty bullish. Beyond that, we really don't have much else until 10 o'clock. That's the ISM Manufacturing PMI for May, forecasted 60.9. We'll see if they can, what they can do with that. The previous number was 60.7. That's really all we have to worry about. Also, as a side note, today is the first of the month, and that's cool for a couple different reasons. For those of you who have been following the sci-fi side of things, we've got the what is it? The unclassification or declassification or whatever of all of the UFO files today. That should be fun. We can figure out who the galactic overlords are. But being that it is the first of the month, that does also mean that there is going to potentially be a lot of movement and a lot of volume going into that new month. It's something that's very typical that you would expect. So keep that kind of in the back of your mind as we approach today. It's the first of the month, and that can make things a little bit weird. Going into the NASDAQ, first off, we can see that the market's not really doing much of anything. It's just kind of going sideways up-ish. I mean, this thing's a mess. We did have that extremely bullish movement to the upside, but then since then, this thing's just not doing a thing. It's dead quiet up here. This is obviously, I mean, this is needed. It's what's needed to have happened for a while now, especially with this big breakout movement. The market's got to consolidate and figure out what it wants to do next. The thing is, if we were to draw a volume profile on this, obviously there's going to be a profile POC up here because the market spends so much time up here. But the fact that it's not turning down and the fact that it's still not even breaking lows should be a fairly large clue as to what's going on. And now looking backward, we're seeing it break above these previous highs. They broke above, now they're holding higher lows and they're back above again. If we start churning back above the current high of day, that's a potential launching point at least back up to the 13,800s, maybe a little bit further. If it fails, then likely a reversion back to the mean, and the mean would be back inside that range. Potentially down to fill the gap, maybe. Doesn't necessarily have to, but that'd be the zone of interest if it does. Over on the S&P, similar situation, although the S&P is a little bit more bullish. It's breaking to the upside and showing very good continuation up. As far as the channel goes, though, it looks maybe, I guess, more along the lines of that. It's kind of awkward looking. Either way, bulls are still continuing up, and the overall story remains the same. Bulls are trying to get things going to the upside. We're breaking above the highs. We need higher low continuation to keep this going. If it fails, reversion back to the mean. Lots of volume back here on the 4190s, and that's right where settlement is too, so everything kind of lines up there. Over on gold. Gold, for the most part, we've got, I mean, they attempted to get above those highs, and realistically, that break above the highs didn't accomplish a whole lot. A lot of divergence across the top. It's been in an undertow for a while, and now we're seeing it push back underneath. That makes sense. A lot of buyers are going to be looking for a deeper pullback, and if we're looking from the nearer term, on this most recent swing low at least, we haven't even really had an L3 to kind of reverse the trend. So if we're going down here, in an L2, yeah. So a deeper pullback would definitely be useful, and that would put price right back down to that L3 around 1900s, and that would be a near perfect two-legged correction back as well. Fantastic potential. See if we can get down there. On crude oil, which continues to just keep going up, we've got a lot of bullishness coming in, and I mean, these pauses, they're not really even pullbacks. These pauses that are happening are very short-lived, and what I mean by short-lived, obviously they can span a few days, but when they're actually at the lows, it doesn't stay down there very long before screaming back out. And same thing here on these narrower lows, it didn't spend a whole lot of time there before screaming back out. If we do end up getting a pullback, it's likely not going to stick around very long, and it's probably going to scream back out. Logical point of interest would be back down to a channel low, spike in channel low, something along those lines. We're at the highs of it, so getting back down to settlement just underneath 67, that would be the potential launching point for buyers to try to kick the market back up. And then over on the euro, I mean, here again, we've got a big old range. The market tried breaking out below the lows, but it was a total failure with the V bottom. It couldn't even get a higher low reversal retest down there in the 21,600s. So, I mean, maybe it still needs one, but where we are now, there's a lot of resistance here. It makes a lot of sense to see the euro stall here and have some difficulty. So, if it is going to pull back, what a perfect spot to do it from. Makes a lot of sense. Over on Bitcoin, I mean, mostly sideways. Really hasn't done a whole lot after we've broken out of that larger move lower. We're just kind of chopping. All things considered, we're in a big wedge. We're not even at the highs or lows. So, still think it needs a bit more time. Same goes for Ethereum. Excuse me. But, I mean, the thing with Ethereum, at least in the short term, if it can go just a little lower, maybe that 3-press low in the 2500s would be a nice little launching point to try to kick the market back up again. We'll see. Looking at the NASDAQ on the bigger picture and starting off from the top down. We've got the daily, which, I mean, again, we obviously in hindsight can see what happened. They just did it in a really awkward way because we wanted to see that low break just a bit further, and they couldn't. And the fact that they failed to make that low and rotated back up, we were talking about how there's a lot of candle gap objectives to the upside. Those are getting hit. A lot of the high closes and opens up here, those are getting hit. But the market's not pulling back, and that's the big clue. So the fact that it's not pulling back, that still demonstrates that buyers see value here, and they want to keep continuing to buy this to rotate it further up. Now, that could be to try to target this larger volume that was the POC before it shifted down up in the 13,900s. That would be a logical point of interest. Don't forget, remember, the earlier L1 that was supporting on that first move up was right there, and they broke down and held as resistance. We're back again. So if this bullish attempt that's forming right now sticks the landing, that could be a big launching point all the way back up to, maybe even up to 14,000, at least 13,900. But if they fail, that's a problem, and we could see this rotate all the way back down again, and maybe even start hitting some of these deeper POCs that could cause some issues. Awesome. Data is obviously working perfectly. Thanks, Ninja. Let's get that out of the way there. On the 60-minute perspective, we've got a lot of volume forming on the upside, and so far the POC is still staying above, right? Or the market's staying above the POC. I just moved it on accident. Give it a second here. So remember, along the way, we were building up on this move to the upside, and we can see the sellers tried getting something going there, held it down, and then the higher low happened. That's where everything shifted, right? And you can see the big breakout point right there, left behind a big old void in price. And if the market's going to pull back, that's the spot to pull back to. It's going to want to fill in some of this price action. That also lines up pretty nicely with that previous POC. Pretty obvious that sellers took that. So the fact that it broke above, and even if it does fail a little bit lower, a quick little slide off, that might be a fantastic launching point for buyers to kick it back up again. 13,700 is the POC on the highs. If sellers have built in on this move up, they're still in the negative since last week. They've got a lot more work to do. And remember, they did have a break-even slide. That was that move down here and here. The POC shifts back there. And I believe there was one more here. So there's been plenty of attempts for the sellers to get out of break-even. We're just looking for a potential continuation down for them to make something of the trade, and that hasn't happened yet. And then over on the 15, looking at it from this perspective, let's get all of that gone. There we go. And then it does go over the weekend. Is my data going to work? Oh, wow. Okay, it did. Surprised. So very obviously before the move up, we had a big old POC shift. The sellers were trying to hold it down. They gave up. It broke higher. And with that breakout higher, that was that gargantuan ripper to the upside. It finally pulled back. Buyers bottom weighted into it. That wasn't much of a surprise. And before it made a new high, came back and gave them one more shot to even reload before going back up and finally completing the objective. After they completed the objective, the market started pulling back, and we see a POC cluster right back at the previous highs. Those would be the breakout pullback buyers. Right? Look at where it is. Continuation, breakout, pullback. Nope, didn't go. Right, so the breakout pullback buyers tried getting it going. There's their POC, but they failed. And, well, it rotated all the way down. And before it actually continued down, breaking through some of these major structure levels, like the POC down here, where the buyers are obviously, loading, it rotated all the way back up. And now it's back in the positive territory. So what we can utilize here is an idea of where potentially the buyers may be looking to get out in the short term. In the very short term, from a scalper's perspective, the 1/2 to 1, if you want to know why the market's running into such a difficult time up here, we're at the scalper's objective right now. Algos are taking profit. It's as plain as day. I mean, right there. There's a reason why it stopped dead in its tracks where it did. That's why. We see algos taking profit or traders taking profit, whatever, scalpers taking profit. But if it can break through this, then we're looking to expand that up to the next objective. It's not just a 1-to-1. A lot of traders don't typically go for 1-to-1s. It's either 1/2 to 1s or 2-to-1s for big swings. And the 2-to-1, that's way up here in the 13,852s. And remember, the larger objective is up in the 13,900s. It fits perfectly. So if this does pull back, I mean, even down to the 720s, buyers could potentially be stacking into this to try to get this thing going to the highs. Short term, though, we do know that the buyers have had their targets hit. Asian session to Euro session stacked up, bullish, continuing higher. From the swing low, the biggest pullback was an L3. Jeez. Continuation up, almost an L2, but that was an L1. was a quick little high there, huh? L1, 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 L1. The only thing we're missing is that deeper pullback. We've got the undertow. Everything is saying look for an L2 or deeper. L2, L3. Whether or not it's going to happen, you know, hey, we'll see. One second. All right. So again, I've still got my kids so lovingly passed on whatever they had to me, which you can hear in my throat. So if you hear me not talking as much, that might be a relief to some of you. And for others, that's why. I'm just kind of saving my throat is all. Let's see here. On the S&P side of things, the S&P is not open yet, but looking at what we're leaving behind, we've got that nice gap down. Yesterday obviously was quote-unquote open, kind of, sort of. So we'll have to kind of see where they want to actually open up. The settlement technically is here because that's where it closed yesterday, but realistically, we could also be looking at a settlement price up here. I mean, either way, we're at a massive gap to the upside. It's not really going to make much of a difference either way, but it's something to consider at least. Looking for that deeper L2. Why are my lines extending? Don't. Ugh, that's terrible. Anchor. Is that better? There we go. Fantastic. All right, so I'm looking for an L2 as we move into this. And that puts price back in the 722.50s. Pretty obvious range going on here too. Yikes. Is it double deviating too? Yeah, to the tick. Okay. Well, let's see if it wants to deviate higher too. Yep, sure enough. Well, we have our range at the moment. Man, that... Oh, come on. How many things can we line up in one spot? Are you kidding me? That's the bottom of a double deviation of the range lower, too. Oy vey. Please pull back. Oh, that's perfect. You can't ask for a better spot for that to land. See if it can muster up the strength to get there. All right, there we go. And I haven't had a chance to make the video for obvious reasons. My throat is in a lovely situation right now. I will be making the video soon. We're approaching the 2,000 subscriber mark, which is fantastic, incredible, absolutely amazing. And with that, we were talking about that giveaway. If you guys remember, what was that, a week or two ago? We were talking about a giveaway that I was looking to do. So keep your eyes out for that video that's going to be coming soon. going over the giveaway and all the details and all that cool stuff. Once my throat allows me to record a video that doesn't sound, you know, raspy jaspy. Ugh. Crude oil, nice deep pullback here. Hey, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. Hopefully you all had a fantastic extended weekend. Hopefully none of you blew off any hands. I don't know if you guys do fireworks for... I don't know. A lot of people around here do. But, you know, you mix a little further out in the woods and some beer and, you know, explosions usually follow. It's more fun that way. Got the open right around the corner here in about 6.5 minutes or so. Also going to be trying to keep an eye on more of the markets as well, from a more wider perspective, like a 15-minute perspective, just to allow some trades to kind of hang out. And on what was it, on Friday or Thursday or whatever it was last week, I was doing it a little bit, and it was kind of fun dipping into a few of those other markets. So far, just kind of stuck on the range highs. Not really much of anything going on, jeez. All right, 5 minutes until the open. NASDAQ seems like it's trying to lift a little bit here. Crude oil on a big old washout move. There aren't very many swings to work with on the NASDAQ, but I guess all things considered, we did have this first swing down here. Little bit. I don't even want to call these pullbacks, but I guess for lack of anything else, that's what they are. POC seems to be mid-weighted on the majority of them. Yeah, even back here. So now that we have a situation where it's taking a little bit longer to pull back and we have a two-legged correction down, where's the POC? Still right in the middle. Be interesting to see a quick new low. Dip down into like a 3-press wedge. That would have looked a lot nicer like this, though. I guess I can use negative space so it's not so dominating on the chart, huh? Let's do that. Yeah, that works. Still fading back down, 13,745 POC, kind of hovering in the middle. Open right around the corner. Kind of curious what kind of candle they're going to close going on the 15-minute. The NASDAQ is bearish right now after two really strong 15-minute bull bars. 9:28 is the next big time slot. 9:28 usually throws things around. That's the final period for adjustments to at open orders. Bitcoin and Ethereum are catching a nice little pop to the upside here. Crude oil's on almost a perfect looking pullback on a washout. Gold's just hovering around settlement. It's not sure what it wants to do there. NASDAQ trying to climb higher now into the deviation up. Bulls are breaking above the POC cluster at 745, and typically what we've seen previously, when the POC shifts and they break above it, it usually goes to a new high. Obviously, the problem right now is timing. It's 1.5 minutes until the 9:30 open. It's just a little bit awkward. Looks like bulls are going to be closing out a bull bar on the 15. That'd be the third one, and a lot of traders wait for those 3 back-to-back strong bull bars before they start hitting basically everything is up, buy everything mentality. Hey, welcome, welcome. Glad to see everyone this morning. Pardon my voice, still a little raspy. Video quality is not 1080p. It's not? I changed the settings. Well, I changed the bit rate. Okay. I will check again. Nice pop to the upside here on the NASDAQ through the top. Yeah, we'll get it one way or another. those stupid settings along the way, but we'll figure it out. Bulls attempting to get a little bit more lift to the upside, although having a little bit of trouble. It is 720. Okay. I wonder why I didn't go to 10. Okay, well. On the S&P here, this big move to the upside, I'm going to see if I can grab 29 with this continuation up. This thing's, it's way the heck over here. Let me narrow it in for you. The euro also has a potential long setting up. S&P objective is going to be up at 3150. So the euro has a potential continuation from here for a move to the upside as well. There's a potential long on the euro setting up on this retest of settlement. I'm only looking for an inside lower high, though, up to like the 380s. I think it makes more sense from that perspective. The S&P still got some wiggle room. If it does want to dip down to the lows, 24 quarter would be the next area. That is either a potential stop underneath or an add. I like it for an add. Market's incredibly bullish. NASDAQ dipping back to that 45 after cracking a new high. Kind of curious to see if they can dip just a little bit further down into those 740s. Almost. Euros continuing to the upside. Euros objective at the top, 22,380 is the first logical objective. Come on, NASDAQ. Little dip underneath the 40s. It looked like it was going to dip underneath the 40s, but then it jumped right back out. I'll take that small scalp. It didn't quite fire as far down as I wanted it to when I hit bid. Still waiting for the euro continuation. Okay, there we go. I was going to say, why is that showing up? Bitcoin, giant reversal candle to the upside. Sheesh. All right, bulls trying to get a bit more continuation to the upside. S&P modify in 3050 is still okay. NASDAQ's trying to hold this area that looks like they just potentially trapped underneath those bears, but I got to see that bull bar. Nice bull bar attempt. Eesh. Right under the POC in the middle, though. Tough spot. I still like the wider objective at 3150. I think if the S&P is going to reverse and pop back to the upside, because it still has open candle gapping on the 15 looking for highs, it just makes more sense to see it continue further up. Same goes for the euro for continuation up, although I do like the inside lower high. I think it's just a safer bet there. If it offers up a chance to get maybe a few more, then... if the S&P does fill me at 24 quarter, that should put my average right around like 27-ish. And then I'll look for actual risk based off of that instead. $24 quarter. It's right at the bottom of the bull bar. Technically, you could try to go for like 24, but whenever I do something like that, I never get filled, so... So I'll modify for actual risk, which presently is at 28 quarter, but that will change as time goes on. $19.50 is the next point of interest. We might get that nice deep dip at the open. NASDAQ kind of gaming the system a little bit here. Actual risk at the moment, 29. Euro's still climbing a little bit further up. 29 quarter now. Ooh. Big pop underneath the base there. No fill at 19.5 though. All right. Fair enough. First 5-minute POC on the S&P is right there at 28.75. On the NASDAQ, it's back at 90. I'm sorry, 749. Put that on all charts so we can see it. NASDAQ kind of stepping up to the plate. That's a really nice bull bar. We do have the 5-minute POC cluster at 749, so I don't necessarily want to be the first one to the party, but they still haven't even shifted the POC. Same thing, if it hits the 1950s, I'll look for an average point to base a actual risk off of for a scalp. NASDAQ still not really pulling back. They're having a heck of a time here. That 749 area is causing some issues. We've got, I mean, maybe a little wedge kind of thing going on. Ugh. All right. S&P objective modifies in based on actual risk at 25. NASDAQ still trying to climb higher. And the euro is still waiting. The NASDAQ on the 15-minute now is at a bull engulfing. And the euro is still trying to get that climb to the upside as well. Looking for the continuation to the upside on the euro to hit the objective at 22,380. NASDAQ breaking through new highs. S&P targets at 25. Although realistically, the cluster at 28.75 would be the likely objective if it is going to break aggressively higher and play a bit of catch-up. NASDAQ is screaming to the upside. 1.5 DP to the upside. It's just underneath the 780s. Remember how important this area is on the daily. It's a big spot that they're trying to break above here. Euro's getting closer to the objective. Not quite there yet, but closer. Ethereum and Bitcoin seeing a really nice reversal to the upside. Jeez. Huge bull bars. The euro's almost there. Not quite, though. Let's see here. I've got to stagger another deviation up. There we go. All right, so they kind of pushed into that first area up there. Or this would be the, what, 1, 2, 3, fourth deviation up. Jeez. It's just a couple. Although very low probability of it actually doing so, but if it does hit 1475 on the S&P, then more likely than anything else, it's a lot of traders that are going to be looking to utilize that as an opportunity to buy to exit rather than buy to scalp as a target. NASDAQ pullback area to like the 51s would be a zone of interest. We don't have news until 10, so we do have a little bit of time yet. Nice little dip down into those low 50s would be great on the NASDAQ. So far, this is still kind of the first drive down, though, on this leg. Could use this, I mean, at least a little bit of a pause or something. It might not want to be the first one of the party. Unless they can really power blow off, like, through 50 down to, like, 49. I wouldn't mind that as much. That's not really it. Bitcoin and Ethereum both plotting some massive 15-minute bars to the upside. Not really getting the pullback, though. Tell you what, if NASDAQ could dip underneath the 40s, that would be incredible. Or even a little snap down into the 36s. S&P target up to 26.25. They did pause and get a secondary leg to the downside, so if the bulls are going to show up, this would be an opportune spot for them to do it. Depending on what the volume looks like. Yeah, they're still underneath at 755. Euro's getting close. Euro target again at 22,380, but it's a slow mover. We're seeing a total negative correlation right now in the S&P versus the NASDAQ. Very interesting. Euro's almost at the target. Testing the target. Target fills on the euro. Ooh, bottom-weighted POC on the NASDAQ. Okay. They might be showing up for some business here. Seems like they're still having a bit of trouble, though. NASDAQ hitting the little dip area. If it does give a quick little pop, then around 44.5 would be the zone of interest. For now, at least. On the NASDAQ, I'd be more interested if we get like a really deep pullback. Just noting that the S&P is still kind of dropping, and I'm already long on the S&P. I don't really want to, you know, double down, if as it were, on the longs too hard. So I would rather space them out a bit more. Just don't feel the need for the pressure of having to be too quick on the trigger for the NASDAQ right now. Remember that deeper L2 pullback, although the L2 is going to have to be redrawn a little bit. Isn't it off? And we're right there. S&P might just make it down there. Same thing happens once it hits 1475, assuming it fills, of course. And also widening out my targets on the NASDAQ while it dips a little bit further into this L2. $750 now is the objective on the NASDAQ. 750, that number is a recurring nightmare. That thing keeps showing up over and over and over again. Bitcoin, if they can get a dip underneath like the 36,530s, that might be a really nice spot of interest for buyers to try to pick it back up. NASDAQ on the 15-minute, we are reaching out and testing 718. That is a massive POC cluster. Huge area of interest. Still got to play it a little bit lighter because I'm already long on the S&P. Continuation move to the downside on the S&P puts objectives at least at 42.2150. Still got room for 2 more on the S&P, but I'm going to space those out a little bit further still. Two more in the sense of 2 more lots, like 2 more position entries. NASDAQ target gets a little bit wider, 52.75. S&P still continuing to the upside. So long as this bullishness continues on the, on the euro rather, as long as the euro bullishness continues, I mean, realistically, as long as the longs are still long, there's no reason to not believe that they're going to keep going. As far as this continuation to the downside goes, we have a massive POC in the middle at 35.50. Very realistically, when they have a mid-weighted POC like that, that's a pause and a breakdown, you're usually going to deviate down off of that first leg lower. And that puts it right around that same area. So 707 down to 700s, depending on how aggressive or non-aggressive you want to be. Really? How? I'll chalk that up to just plain not fair. Okay. Now we can modify down a little bit closer, 32.25. 4 minutes until we have news. There's news at 10 o'clock. And it's also 4 minutes until we move into the extended session. So feel free to get those last questions in before we move over. That's going to be a bit further right there, 32.75. Crude oil just kind of hovering, not really doing much. Gold sinking a bit. As far as the larger perspective on gold, I mean, it's starting to dip back down to the lows of the range around those 1905s. So, I mean, it's definitively a zone of interest. Bitcoin, if it can dip just a little bit further down, 36,530s, depending on your exchange data. That's that price is coming from the Coinbase to NinjaTrader data. So The bottom of the last 15-minute bar, wherever that is for you. It's a potential zone of interest. If it can go down that far, I mean, it's only got like 2 minutes to do it. Bottom-sided objective now on the S&P. Realistically, that trade was essentially wrong. I'm just looking for a quick little pop above 19s to see if they want to fill into the 21s. But if they're not able to, I'm not looking to hang out for very long. $10 o'clock around the corner. Got news at 10 o'clock. And I'll also be swapping over to the extended session. All right, 10 o'clock. Let's see what you got. They've given the buyers a heck of a pullback to build into. $10 o'clock hits. Doesn't really seem to have done much, actually. NASDAQ getting a little bit of up and down, but okay. A little bit more bullishness back up. All right, well, that's going to do it for the first morning session going into 10 o'clock. Now we can swap back over. I'm not seeing any other questions, so we'll switch over to the extended session and then finish the morning off. And we'll see what we can make of these last few trades here. So that's going to do it. Hopefully you had a great morning. And if you were like me, you were probably just sitting and building for most of the morning and waiting. And it might have been a little bit of a frustrating morning, but it looks like we're starting to kind of shift the gears a bit and get things to turn in the opposite direction. Just need a bit more follow through. But that's going to do it. So hopefully you had a great morning. Otherwise, yeah, if you have any questions that I missed, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll get those covered for you from there. For those of you on the VIP side of things, just hang out in the Zoom meeting and you shouldn't have to do really anything. You just wait. And on the YouTube side of things, look for the link posted in the community section. For the rest of you, enjoy, and we will see you all back tomorrow morning, all right? Talk to y'all later. Thanks.